Hi, how are we doing? I'm doing great because today we're doing my May wrap up. I was a little bit slumpy in the month of May, but I feel like I still read quite a bit, so let's get into things. Starting off with my stats, of course. I read 12 books in the month of May, which amounted to 3,839 pages read, which is an average of 123.83 pages per day and 319.91 pages per book. I had one DNF this month, which of course is not included in the stats, but will be included in the video. Then for format, we have 4 books I physically own, 1 ebook, and 6 galleys from NetGalley. For rating, we have 3 2 stars, 3 3 stars, 5 4 stars, 1 5 star, and an average rating of 3.33. Then for age range, we have 6 YA books and 6 adult books. Very split in the middle, that's been a long time. And for genre, we have 9 contemporaries, 1 graphic novel, and 2 fantasies. So let's just dive into the books that I read, starting off with Tough Guy by Rachel Reid, which I gave 4 5 stars to. This is the 3rd book in the Game Changer series, and I'm currently making my way through the entire series. And this is the first one that I gave 4 stars, but obviously that's still a good rating. But just when the previous 2 were a 5, which is a little bit of a letdown. But in this book, mainly the thing that I loved is Ryan and the discussion around his mental health. I think that was really well done, and I feel like Rachel Reid just did a great job showing that side of Ryan and also showing his growth within that. He is a very internal character, so therefore you really get to see how his illnesses influence his mindset and stuff. So I really enjoyed that. I also quite liked the romance in this one. That was very wholesome. I feel like it matched obviously the issues Ryan was having really well. It's like a nice compliment to that, if that makes sense. And I also just really like whenever a couple just has an ease with each other, and that definitely was the case in this book. I just think that Fabian, the other main character, kind of felt like a side character in his own book, and that just left me a little bit sad, but for the rest I did quite enjoy this. Then the next book that I read is All the Fields by Olivia Dade, which I give 2 to 5 stars to. This is the last book in a series that I needed to read, and I read it all out of order. I apologize, but my library finally got this one in, so I finally got around to reading it. And I wasn't a fan of this, which was just a shame because the other 2 books in the series I did really enjoy. But there's a lot of things within the romance of this one that just gave me the ick, just like the dynamic, and then also the way this whole book was like, I'm fat and ugly, but he's so hot. I don't know, I didn't like that. I don't think that's anything romantic about that dynamic, you know? So that I wasn't a big fan of, and then I also just felt like our main characters weren't the most likable, but there were still some parts that I did like, but overall just kind of like a bit of a letdown within the series. Then we have First and Forever by Lynn Painter, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to, and I got from NetGalley. This was a blast. It's probably the most fun I've had with a book this month. Just really funny, very lighthearted, very fun. 2 main characters just have such a great band together, which makes their romance really pop. Also just really like the cast of side characters, and I also think this book does a great job kind of dealing with a bit more difficult topics while still overall remaining like a pretty funny, lighthearted book. So in that sense, I recommend it. Then we have To All the Boys I've Loved Before, the graphic novel by Jenny Han, adapted by Barbara Perez Marquez and illustrated by Akimaro and Lee Lu, which gives 2 to 5 stars together from NetGalley. I was so disappointed in this. I love To All the Boys I Loved Before, and I love a good graphic novel adaptation, but this wasn't good. I feel like typically to be in a graphic novel, a lot has to be scrapped from the book because, you know, it has to be a bit more concise. But this felt like it adapted the scrap pile, which made just for a very baffling read, and I did not enjoy it. I do have to say the art style is absolutely stunning, so that honestly makes me hate it more that I wasn't a big fan of how they adapted the story. And then we have The Road Trip by Beth, which I DNF'd at page 42. I generally think this is the end for me about Beth, because if you know, in the past I've really enjoyed Beth books. Like, I've never loved them, but I've really enjoyed them. And then last month I read 2 that I really didn't like, and then this one I DNF'd. So I think maybe I've outgrown her books, which is fine, but I just really wasn't a big fan of this one. The male main character really gave me an ick so badly already. Only this far in, like, I did not like him, and then I went on to read spoilers, and yikes, I'm very glad I did not decide to continue reading this book. Then I read Shapes of Love by LV Peñalba, which I gave 2 to 5 stars to. It's another Galley from NetGalley. This one I was so excited to read because I feel like it's so rare to have books with our ace wrap, so I was very excited to give this one a shot and see if I liked it, but I didn't. And I think my main issues with it were the writing, because I do feel like in the story there are some interesting parts to it, but the writing just was very surface level, and also kind of at points very much about like baby's first fanfic, and reminded me a lot of like those toxic fandom spaces. So was not a fan of that. Then next I read Smash or Pass by Birdie Schae, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to, and it's a guy from NetGalley. This is another really fun book. Like, if you want like a very fun summer camp YA romance. I feel like this one is right up your alley. It's also sapphic and has a great autism representation as well. And just I really thought this was a very cute, fun read, but like a very great romance, but also incredible friend group dynamic. I feel like that was for me the shining star of this book. Then next I read Wilde and Rivalry by Kristy Boyce, which I give 5 stars to, and as a gal I got from that galley. This one I kind of felt met on. This is another one that I've just felt a little bit surface level, especially when it came to the friend group in this one. I feel like I didn't really know any of those characters that well, and the dynamic felt a bit off, but I did really like the main character. I kind of her personal struggles, especially around like the pressure she feels to just excel because it's a senior year and like live up to her mom's reputation and everything. I thought discussions around that were really well done, and in fact a scene towards the ending of that legitimately made me tear up. But then I wasn't a fan of the romance, especially not because the love interest I thought was kind of an asshole. So you win some, you lose some. Then next I read Common Goal by Rachel Reid, which I give 5 stars to. I told you making my way through this series, and this is another one that I quite liked, but I did have some issues with. This is an age cap romance, and I quite liked the way that was done because that's typically not something I personally love, but I like the way that was executed in here. And I really again like both of our main characters and their personal journeys, with Eric, his tyrant and his feelings around that, and with Kyle just kind of his stuff about figuring out what he wants to do in life a little bit. And I just really liked the development of both of his characters. I also think the sexual tension in this book of the charts, I think that was really well written, but then on the flip side of that, I just think this didn't really go that much beyond lust, and I personally like a bit more emotional development in my romances. And then next we have Role Model by Rachel Reid, which I give 5 stars to. This one took me so much by surprise because Troy in this book appears in the previous books as well, and I wasn't the biggest fan of his character, so I was very nervous to see him lead a book, but I loved his character journey in this book so much. His development and the way he takes accountability for his actions in those 2 books, that was so well done. And then Harris is such a sunshine character, like the definition of a sunshine character. Everything that I love about that character archetype executed so well, and I loved his passion for his job as well. And then our romance was just a bit slow compared to the other 2 books that from the series that I read this month. Really well executed as well, and I loved the development, and I loved how they kind of were like 2 magnets constantly pulling towards each other and not really understanding like where that was coming from or anything, and I loved that dynamic as well. So I don't know, this took me by surprise by how much I ended up loving this, but I absolutely adore it. Then next we have Soundtrack by Jason Reynolds, which I give 3 out of 5 stars to. Together from that galley. I feel like there's some interesting elements in this book. I feel like the storyline has some interesting things to say, the characters are intriguing, but I feel like overall again this is a book that just felt a little bit surface level for me, and I just wanted a bit more depth from to fully like be invested in it and enjoy it as much as you would like from a book, you know. And then next I read Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Faeries by Heather Fawcett, which I give 2 out of 5 stars to. This is a book I kind of just feel fine about. I at first really liked the writing, I liked the characters, and I liked the world a lot. So I was vibing, I was having a good time, but then I feel like the second half just went a bit downhill for me, where I feel like storylines felt a bit rushed, like they came out of nowhere as well, but also like the way they were progressing felt very rushed and just not really satisfactory, and therefore it kind of went down a little bit in rating. But I do still like this world, I still like these characters, so I am very hopeful for the rest of the series. So fingers crossed I will actually eventually continue on with that and like those more. And then lastly for today already, I feel like I'm flying through it today, I don't know what it is, but lastly I read Better Than Black by Cassandra Clare, which I gave 4 stars to, which is a rounded up rating. It is a collection of 10 stories in the Shadowhunter world focusing on love, and I rated and reviewed every single short story just for my own takes, but then I took the average of just a 3.8, which I rounded up to a 4 for your sakes. But I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really fun, like as someone who grew up with the Shadowhunter novels, and I can't believe that the world is almost gonna be over now. This was just a really fun read. It's also just fun to be with these characters again, because there are some couplings in here that are maybe not the most obvious to include in a story in a collection like this. I just love being with these characters again, some of whom we haven't seen in a while. So in that sense it was great, but also I don't think this is like necessary to read before the Wicked Powers, but I will say if you do feel like you need a little bit of a refresher for some things that are gonna be important world wise for the Wicked Powers, I would recommend picking this up, because a lot of the stories deal with like little elements that are going to be important in like the bigger picture of the Wicked Powers, and just helped refresh my brain personally. So in that sense I really liked it, but also I just really like this collection. I think this is my favorite of the Shadowhunter collections. Might be Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, I don't know, but this comes really close, and it's also like the only one that I know that doesn't have like a jewel line as well, so makes it fun to like dip in and out of. And that is everything I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Goodbye.